Hello, where are you? Ah,
Good evening.
hello.
Okay, boss is not here yet. When is the test on this Masechta?
What is what?
When is the test on this Masechta?
It says,
I can't hear you, Harold. Harold, I can't hear you.
So we're on Tesvav, 15.
15.
Just moving an item in space without moving your feet, that's not considered halacha. Now, let's say you did move an item without beregel. Can you return and start again? Or no? Toshma. Ki be'el kosher, a kosher coin received the blood. The nasan lepasul, and gave it to, let's say, a non-kohen. It doesn't say that it's ruined completely. Yachzer lekosher. He can return it back to the kosher coin and continue. The passing of the kli to the puzzle was done without walking. You just handed it. And that's not good, but it looks like you can recover. When inami sheyazra kosher v'kablanu, that the kosher can receive it again and do the zrika. So if you would have thought you can't resuscitate it, if slula, then how can you do the zrika? It was possible initially. But it says, no, misarvis to koizar gavoy. Who says that the pasul guy, the czar, was standing, let's say, between the kohen and the mizbech, so he was closer to the mizbech, and therefore there was a psul a little bit in moving it without feet, and so here could be lo de koizar baroi. The non-coin is standing further from the coin from the mizbech, And therefore, there was no halacha done to the Mizbech. He distanced the blood from the Mizbech. Di itmarmu ulam Rav Yochanan. Halacha shelo beregel psula. Without using your feet, it's puzzle. Alma, when it says psula, and that doesn't say lo shma halacha, is lo yafshali tikuna. You might think then it means you can't correct it. However, Eis Rav Nachman Lula. Nishpach b'nakli ala ritzpa. Let's say you received the blood. The blood was spilled on the floor of the Azara. V'asfon, you gathered it into the kli kosher. And that's l'chura, even if it spilled in the direction of the mizbeach. So again, it's talking about halacha without regel. So the Gemara says, no, it's not example of that, because hochma is, kishiyot l'chutz. When it spilled, it didn't. It flowed away from the mizbeach, not towards the mizbeach. I understand when something drops on the floor, levroi nofik l'gvai lo ayo. What, it only flows in one direction? Not in fluid. When you drop it, it spreads in all directions. Some of it must have gone towards the mizbeach. So the Gemara answers b'malkam madron. No, it was a slanted floor, and therefore the dam flowed away from the mizbeach down the slant. Iboy sema, the blood might have spilled beguma. It just sort of filled a hole, didn't go anywhere. The Iboy sema besmicha. It was not very liquidy, and therefore it didn't flow at all. So the Gemara says, "V'yichpil Tana l'shmina kolani." So the Tana came up with this whole formulation for these sort of unusual cases. V'od adatani b'dich pirkin, until you bring it in our baraisa of nishpach ala ritzpa v'asfo. For example, if you didn't collect it in a kli, but the moment you did shchita, the blood flowed on the ground, didn't go to a kli, then v'asfo puzzle. At that point, we could have had liflog b'didei. He could have said b'medvar k'shiyatz l'chutz. You could have said only the blood flowing towards away from the mizbech. Aval nichnas lifneim puzzle. So to Yufta, it's a kasha on Ula. Ula and Rav Yochanan were rejected. Itmar. Hoylacha shelo beregel. We asked, is it hoylacha or not? Machlokes Rav Shir Rabbanan. Right? Whether machshava apostles, we have it in our Mishnah. Now, b'hoylacha rabasi, if there's a very far distance from where you shechted until the mizbeach, kulam lo pligi psula. Well, everybody says that if you have a bad machshava during that kind of halacha, it's going to puzzle. Ki pligi b'halacha zutrati, where you were pretty close to the mizbeach. There, Rab Shimon said it's not considered halacha because you don't need halacha, and therefore a machshava will not puzzle during that kind of halacha. And the chachamim puzzle. However, machku Allah b'marava, they laughed about this in Eretz Yisrael. Ella, based on that, chatas ha'oif. You have a bird chatas where you do malika. You don't do shchita. You use your fingernail to cut out, to cut the bird's head off from the back, and you do it near the mizbeach, and you sprinkle blood directly from the bird on the wall of the mizbeach. We said psula b'machshava. Now, if you have an improper machshava during that hazah of the blood, it'll puzzle. Now, l'Rav Shimon echem ishkachasla. How is that going to work for Rav Shimon? Either chashav alo makabi de lifrik. If you had the machshava before the blood came out of the bird, the lefik adam lo klumu. Because hoylacha, not beregel, is not a hoylacha. He basar de nafik adam. If he had the machshava after the blood flowed, so you already have kaporis, you have limits faso. So the Gemara says, my kusha, what kasha? Dilma mida porsh vademata. It's from the time that the blood is separated from the neck of the bird until it hits the wall, till the mizbeach. If you have a machshava during that period of time, according to Rab Shimon, it would passel. The boy min Rav Yim Rav Zera. Hayam mazeh. The kohen was sprinkling the blood. V'nikta yado shel mazeh, and his hand was amputated. Ad shlo higia dam laver mizbeach. That means he squeezed the bird, and the blood is now traveling in the air, hasn't hit the wall yet, and then they amputate his hand. Ma. Is that a hazor psula? Because now he's a balmum? Or maybe since the blood already left the neck of the animal while he was holding it, maybe it's still kosher. Va'amar le psula. And over there the answer was possible. My time. Huh? It says v'hizah koin v'nosan hakoin. V'hizah v'nosan b'hina. You need v'hizah and v'nosan. And the nesina is not finished until it actually hits the mizbeach. So comes out that the machshava will passel. This is why they laughed in Eretz Yisrael. It means we wanted to say before that there's no machlokas when it comes to a long walk. The machlokas between Rab Shimon and the Chacham is only if it's very close. But the question is, it should be a machlokas even then. V'haki pligi, b'halocha rabasi pligi. Rab Shimon in our mission doesn't make a difference between a big walk or another walk. He says, since there are times we don't need to walk, that then there's no machshava psula b'mahalech. Ela b'halacha zurisi kulam lo pligi d'loy pasla. Now the Gemara says even the Chachamim agree that if you're close to the mizbech and there's no halacha, then there's no machshavas psul at that time. Ki pligi b'halacha rabasi. Then there's a machlokes. Hoilicho zar. A non-kohen walked the dam. Ve'chzir kohen. But then it was given to a kohen who went back to where the blood had started. V'chazir v'hoilicha. And then the kohen retraces the steps and walks to the mizbech. Pligi bo b'nei Rav Yanai. The sons of Rav Chia and Rav Yanai argue. Chad amar kosher. V'chad amar posel. Mar savar efshel tikune. That if initially the czar did a halacha that was not okay, you can correct it. Umar savar lo efshel tikune. The one who says it's not good says you can't go back. So it says holicho kohen. The kohen walked into the mizbech, and then he walked back, and the chazer holicho zar, and then a non-kohen walks it. The one who says it's kosher, when a zar walks it, and then a kohen brings it back and starts again, here would be puzzle. Because here the last hoilacha prior to the zrika is done by a zar. Now, l'divrei apoisel, because over there the original hoilacha was with a zar, which made psul. Here was machshir, because here the original hoilacha is with someone who's kosher to do it. So Rava Amar after divrei apoisel puzzle. Everybody will hold its puzzle if the zar does it initially. My time, huh? No, I'm sorry. In where the kohen did it and the zar did it at the end. My time, huh? Listen, the blood has to be brought to do the zrika, and now it doesn't fly there by itself. And that final act the zar can't do. This concept that the blood cannot fly there by itself, someone has to bring it. That's a machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbana. It's not. Rabbi Eliezer omer hamahalach b'makom shetzarech lahalech. If you're far away and you have to walk, then a machshava poiselas. Then a bad machshava during that walk will puzzle. But if you're close to the mizech, b'makom she'ein tzarech lahalech, you don't really need to walk it. A machshava poiselas. V'amar Rava hakol moedim Kiblu bachutz. You were further away from the Mizbech when you did the Kabbalah. Vichnisnim b'fnim. And you brought it closer to the Mizbech. That's what's considered Zehi L'Chshitzrach Lalech. That's where Rabbi Lezer said it's a Mahalach that's needed, where a Machshava will passel. Kiblu b'fnim. If you receive the blood closer to Mizbech, L'tzil L'chutz, and you walk the dam further away from the Mizbech, that's Zehi L'Chshein Tzrach Lalech. That's not bringing it closer to the Mizbech, and therefore a Machshava Psula is not ruining it then. Lo nechleku ela sheichnisu. First you brought it close, then you brought it further away. And then you come close. Mar Savatana comes and says, well, someone had to bring it. And they're close to the Mizbech, and therefore that hiluch is an avoida, and an important avoida, and a bad machshava then will passel. But Mar Savatana hiluch hatzarach lavodadami. This going close and walking far away and then coming back, you already walked it close. So the second walking is not really considered an important avodah. And therefore, according to that Mandomar, the Machshava Psula will not pass. Eis ve'Abaya. Abaya is going to ask a kasha for Rabban Baraisa. You do a walk where the walk is important. Machshava poiselis ketzad. How does the machshava invalidate? Kiblu bachutz, you received it further from the mizbech. V'chnisu l'pnim, you brought it closer. Zeu hilich shetzarech lach. That's a hoilacha that you need, and a bad machshava will passel. Kiblu b'fnim b'tzil chutz, you received it close to the mizbech, and then you walked it far. Zeu hilich shein tzarech lach. You don't really need that. And therefore, a bad machshava will not passel there. But that means that now, if it was walked far away from his back, and now somebody has to bring it back, that's a hiluch shetzarach la'alechu. And Rabbi Eliezer would admit that a bad machshava would work. Amar lo Tanya. If that's the baraisa, then I'll go back on what I said. Okay. Tesvav Beis, new parak Sheni. Kol hazvachim shekiblu daman zar. Any korban that a non-Kohen receives the blood in a kli, or a Kohen who's an onen, somebody whose relative died that day, they hadn't buried him yet, or tvul yom, somebody who was tamei, who then went to the mikveh, and he's waiting for hair of shemesh. He's waiting for the sun to set. He's a tvul yom. Mechusar kippurim. There are 4 types of tumah that emanate from a person's body: a nida, a metzora, a zav and a yoledes, a metzora, a zav and a zava. They are tummy for 7 days. On the 7th day, they go to the mikveh. The night going into the 8th, they're no longer a tvul yom anymore. But they have to bring korbanos on the 8th day. Until they bring their korbanos, they're called mechusar kippurim. Mechusar begadim, a kohen is not wearing his garments, or a kohen shelo rochatz yadayim v'raglayim, didn't wash his hands and feet with the kior, or orel, an uncircumcised kohen, or a tamei, or yoshev, somebody who receives the blood sitting, or omeid al gabi kelim, his feet were not on the floor of the Ezra, but rather they were standing on kelim, al gabi behema, al gabi ragli chavero, or on his other friend's feet. In all these cases of the Mishnah, pasal, the blood in the kli is invalidated from being thrown on the mizbeach. Kibul b'small, pasal. Tanakama says if you receive the blood with your left hand, it's pasal. Reb Shimon Machshir. The Gemara will analyze all these cases from where we learn it. Zar minala. How do I know that a non-Kohen will invalidate the Kabbalah? The Tani Levi. In Parshas Emor, where it starts saying these are the tumas that a Kohen has to stay away from. Daber Laron Velbanov Lemor. V'yinazru mikotshei bnei Yisrael v'lo yichalu sem kotshi. That which it says bnei Yisrael l'mu'utei mai. What's it excluding? Ilem l'mu'utei noshim. Only korbanos of women. What do you mean? Korban noshim b'tuma karev? What? And that women are not in this parsha where their korbanos that are tummy could be offered? Ella l'mu'utei goyim. A goy is tummy. A goy can send his korbanos to the Beis Hamikdash, but you have to push him away. So hashta tzitz lomaratze, by non-Jews, the tzitz that the Kohen Gadol wore is not mechaper him. Domer marvagoyim ben b'shogig ben b'mezid lowered. So whether it was offered b'shogig b'mezid, it's not acceptable, and because the tzitz does not automatically purify it. If we find out that he was tummy. So betuma karev, then certainly, if the korban was completely tamei, it also would not be offered. Elahachi kamar, when it says vayinazru mikotshei bnei Yisrael v'lo yichalalu, this tzivu is on the kohanim that they have to stay away from kotshim that are tamei, and it's a warning against Jews bnei Yisrael that they have to stay away from avodas hakodesh, otherwise they will mechalov the various korbanos. Rabbi Shmuel Tana Asya b'kal v'chomer from Balmum. Ma Balmum she'oichel im ovad chilel, if a Balmum eats kodshim. Now Balmum gets to eat kodshim, but im ovad chilel, if he does the avodah, he's mechalal it. Zar she'ena ochel eno din shem ovad chilel. Certainly, a non-kohen who's not allowed to eat kodshim, if he did the avodah, he would be mechalal. The kind of kodshim, like kodshei kodshim, chatas and enoshim, which only kohanim can eat. Okay. So the Navi Shir will be at 8 o'clock. See everybody soon.
Thank you.
Okay, good night. Thanks.